Masechta Beia daf Chof Beis amud. The line starts Omar Le, or Shutevis Omar Le. Omar Rav. The shear is behemshich to the Mishnah. Tzorich Eichel Nefesh. One is allowed to do malacha on Yom Tif. The shaila is, we learned before, Beis Hillel say you could even warm up water to wash your feet and hands on Yom Tif. Mashenki Beis Shammai say you can't. So washing your washing your feet. It's also called, Eichel Nefesh. It's necessary. You need it. So now behemshich to this, we have now a memory from Rav, and then the hemshich Gemara. Amar Rav, kanva shori. Kanva is allowed. What's this kanva? So kanva, you have Rashi, you have Tosfos, and you have Adam ben Chananel. And all three are very important halacha from each type of kanva. Kanva means to trim, to cut a little bit. Kanva means to trim. So let's first touch what Rashi says. Rashi says kanva, limchet reisha psila, to trim the head of the wick, shenasa pechom, that became blackened charcoal after it was lit, or while it was lit, shekoirin mukayir belaz. It's called mukayir. So Goy Savachisi also, he says to look on the Lamed Beis, and there the Gemara says the case of this case uses a different lashon, and the Gemara says the following: you have a candle and there's a wick, and because it's black, the wick is black, the fire is not that clear. It happens many times. So you want to take off part of the dark black part, even though by you taking it away, there's fire on it, and you're doing kivui, you're extinguishing a fire, but you're doing it in order to enhance the fire. So therefore, you're allowed to do it. That's according to Rashi. Tosfos tells us that case is indeed the Gemara later, but the Gemara later has a different lashon, not the same lashon as here. So it must be the Gemara is telling us here something different than he said before. We'll learn the Tosfos inside in a moment, just say it Balpeh. So Tosfos says it's a different thing in Bechlal. It's also about a wick, but not Bechlal to do with kivui. Here you're extinguishing, doing kivui in order to enhance the flame to go stronger. Tosfos says no, it's not speaking about b'shas the fire is lit. The fire is out. But you have a candle with a wick that's black. And you want to cut off the black, so the next time you light it, it should light well. What would be the problem there, Bechlal? You're not taking off, you're not making the fire less. Tikkun mana, as I said last time, Take. That's tikkun mana. You're making a mana. You're making it like we had in last year, cutting a candle in half. Same idea. Question: tikkun mana itself, what is it? That's also we had a start question. Cutting a candle in half was also tikkun mana. You're making two candles. You're making a new candle. We had it last year in Tosfos also. How to do it if you want to do it. So Tosfos says this means tikkun mana. Rabbi Chananel has a different girsa. His girsa, we'll go into it in a moment, and here it's a whole different din also. Here we're speaking about a fire, a flame, in order, the fire fuel is made up of many small pieces of wood. So you have, let's say, a bunch of small pieces of wood, but the fire only is now lit, let's say, a few of them. But it's supposed to spread to the others to maintain the length of the fire. Am I allowed to now go and take away some of the other pieces of wood that are not even touching the fire yet? They're just touching the other woods that are touching the other woods that are close to the fire. So this is allowed. You're allowed to do it because provided I'm not touching the fire itself. It's also, these three in the Kudus are very important. No, we're waiting for you. We didn't wait and we started. We were asked about you. Okay.
Made it.
Yeah. So the three. So what's the shaila here? The shaila is similar to what we said last year. Am I allowed to, when you have a Shabbos clock and you have a pin that's put into a certain hour? By me taking out the pin and putting it away somewhere else, I'm not touching anything to do with what's the mechanism now. Now it's either on or off. The pin is just saying instead of 1 hour, 2 hours. According to Rabbi Chananel, the Pshat of Rav is telling us if you have a few pieces of wood and one is touching the other, but doesn't have fire yet, you're allowed to take it away so the fire won't go for 5 hours or go for 2 hours. You're allowed to do that. Okay, we just started now, Mami.
We should need to repeat the idea about the candle.
Yeah, so to this shear, so we have the start of Omar Rav. Rav says that kanva is allowed, and we have trimming. So you have Rashi, Tosfos, Rabbi Chananel.
Okay.
And Rashi speaks is about doing kivui, the malacha of kivui, but you're extinguishing a fire, but in order to have the fire go stronger. You have a wick that has a fire, while it's lit, there's black on top of it, you're trimming off the black in order for this fire that's now actually lit should light better. You're allowed to do that.
So of course, you're extinguishing it in order to trim it, or you're trimming it?
No, I'm trimming. Trimming is extinguishing.
While you're
Trimming is it's still a live fire.
I'm not asking what it's considered. I'm asking when you trim this wick, is it lit?
Yeah, it's lit.
It's lit. You never put it out.
Right, exactly.
That's
That's it. And that's a case of Gemara and the Flamet Beis later. So Rashi says that's mamish the same case. A lit fire, while the fire is lit, I'm taking off part of the top in order that it should be a brighter fire. So you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to take, for example, you're allowed to take a piece of a cookie, a dough, you want to make a cookie out of it, and throw it on top of coals. The moment you put it on the coal, it's going to extinguish part of the fire that's in the burning coals. But in order to have the cookie to bake well, you could put a barbecue on Shabbos. Then you're not mamish there for sure. Even though you know for sure when the fat will come out, it's going to put out, it's extinguishing fires. Then you're not mamish b'yadayim doing anything, so it's for sure not a problem. But the example that's more similar is taking a piece of dough and actually putting it on top of coals, where the moment you put it down, you are now doing kivui from those on the top layer of the coal. Nevertheless, you're doing kiv in order to have the thing, to something baked, you're allowed to do it. So you're allowed to trim part of the candle, even though you're doing it, you're taking off the fire in order to have it grow better. That should be a nicer fire. Before we go back there, we're going to have in the shir, very important to know this. Kivui is an interesting din because we know meleches oichel nefesh is allowed. You're allowed to light a fire, or allowed to cook for oichel nefesh. What's about kivui? To extinguish a fire, l'tzorich oichel nefesh. Now, according to Tosfos, there's no such a thing. It doesn't exist. Tosfos says,
because that's cooking.
What do you do? You're meineya. Why are you putting the fire lower? This shouldn't burn, right? So you're doing kivui not to make it to be meineya, to take away a problem might come. So kivui is never related. It's never related to the oichel itself. When you're squeezing something, you're grinding something. So you are actually doing the malacha, touching the food and making the food and preparing the food to eat. When you're cooking something, so when you're putting the food into the pot, so you're cooking the food now, but what you're doing is making it edible. So you're doing the malacha of cooking. Well, why are you doing the malacha of cooking? Actually, that is making it edible. Are you putting a fire lower because it's going to burn the food? That's not making it edible. It's taking away. It shouldn't burn. What's about actually putting on a fire? Putting on a fire is not. Putting on a fire is not cooking. Putting on a fire is a step away because the food is getting cooked from the fire. No, so that's you have just write a lashon out there. Very important. The first siman in Shulchan Aruch. Yeah. So he says v'chein havara. So he holds that havara, even though there's a svara to say that actually you never have havara that is touching and affecting the food itself, because the bishul affects the food itself, not the havara. So even though my burning a fire, that is not being done with the oichel itself. It's being done with the wood. I take wood, I take fire, and I ignite a fire, and then later on, as a result, you can put a pot on top of it. So the fire itself is not it's not being done with mamish doing with oichel itself. He says this is why. He's doing eish be'etzim. The bishul is touching the food. It's metaken the oichel. And then he goes, this is the nekudah. V'guf ha'eish zu shehoitzi oishehirbe. He hametakenes umavashos zaychel harei he bechlal meleches eichel nefesh. So he gives you a cheshbon, how he explains how fire bemis, the fire is like in the food itself. So it's therefore about it. But kivui is not directed to the food itself. Kivui taking away, putting the fire lower. So b'chalan, I was thinking you can have about kivui, because kivui should keep this in mind.
What cooking you doing? If you need cooking outside a high flame, no. But you might the cooking, the stuff you're cooking might be better on a lower flame, on a kibui.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still all cooking.
Fine. So therefore, I'm saying, but I'm just showing you the issue, the difference, Pashut, in technically between kiver and havara. Havara is actually affecting the food to make it ready-made. Taken from raw meat, it should be edible. It should be meat. Kiver, you're taking away a problem.
It's makshiri ofel nefesh.
Are you diminishing? What is the problem with kibui? You're diminishing the amount of heat that's coming out of there now because of the fact that the kibui. But that's what this particular oichel might require.
Right,
it doesn't require high.
Sure.
High
That's why.
Low flame.
Sure, that's machshiri oichel. So sure. So the shaila is, but putting the fire lower, just to tell you, if you are allowed, not allowed, it's already halacha l'maisa. We're not going to go into this now. But just the difference between havara and kivui is havara and teichen, right, and squeezing and boiler. Your mamish, you're touching the food and you're affecting the food for the better. Mashen can hear you're taking away a different. It'd be a problem. Okay, that we're going to discuss this more about ichus in a moment. But now we're getting to Rashi's.
It's the exact same scenario. A fire which cooks the food, so you're really dealing with ochel nefesh. You're just dealing in a way that you're adjusting the fire in a lower way. But just if you could be mavir the fire to cook the food, because it directly cooks the food, why isn't it called also ochel nefesh when you adjust the fire, which is cooking?
Adjust means I'm taking away the fire.
Exactly.
Now, by me taking away the fire, is that cooking the food?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why? It's not.
That's the whole point.
You're
not
cooking.
It's making sure it shouldn't overcook.
It's
making it shouldn't overcook.
No, but
it shouldn't burn.
Certain meats cook on a lower flame better.
So from zero, go to a little bit. But now, okay, good. But now it's your fire is higher. So what are you doing? You're taking away the fire. On durch take with the fire.
It's gonna cook better.
It's gonna cook better. Okay, so. So half of that fire makes it cook. So you're taking away half of it. Taking away half of the fire, so the taking away the fire is not making it cook. Half of the fire makes it cook. Okay, this is a good idea. Let's have the Gemara. Okay, so but Rashi is first telling us the first Lashon Rashi learns it means doing kivu, doing the malach in order to enhance the fire. So directly, mamish you taking away the black, the dark part of it comes out. Tasteless, let's learn tasteless. Tasteless looks a little bit different.
Do we say that the black part is actually burning, or that it just prevents burning?
Oh, so so we're speaking about a live candle.
A fire, definitely. A little black piece.
Yeah. That's a chiddush. That's a chiddush. If not, what would be the problem? If not, the word is I'm extinguishing a little bit of a spark of fire by taking that off.
You understand what I'm asking you? Is the black thing really cooking, burning?
Yeah.
Or the black thing is burnt out and it's just.
But it has some embers. It has fire on it. It has sparks on it.
But it's a lower. Taste. It's not a bright fire. That's why you're cutting it off.
Right.
My understanding of the fire is that I'm making room so that the wick can burn more brightly, because it prevents it from a total state of burning.
Yeah.
It's got that little thing that's in the way.
Yeah.
But that's burnt out. It can't burn anymore. Can't burn anymore.
Okay.
That's my question.
Yeah. But I take So Rashi says, let's look a little Rashi again. Okay. Rashi says kanve limchet reish hapsila, to trim off the reish hapsila.
Yeah.
Shenase, it already was pecham. It was already charcoal.
Yeah.
And you're trimming it off. That's what it says. He calls it in French. What would be the problem about this? As we explained before, you're trimming it off is taking away a fire, doing kivui. And why do you want to cut it off? The model amud beis, if you want to give a look, we could look there. I'm saying, but that's the more the protein we get there. So that's an meichten as hapsila. What is meichten of Rab Chanina Bashalme? La'aduye chushcha. Rashi la'aduye lahasir pecham hamachshich oira. The pecham is machshich oira. That black makes the oil choshech a little choshech. By you taking away the black, so it's not going to be any more machshich oira. That's one of the base. How much of an answer the question? So you got the answer, or not? So what's the shayla? What's the?
My shayla.
Yeah.
That's my shayla. If it's machshich oira, you should be able to. It's not. You're not. It's not keeping. It's chavar.
No, the black. If you leave it as it,
if you remove the black, which is makshikor.
yeah.
While you're doing it, you're in a certain way also.
So what do you?
It could be like touching the fire a little bit.
What do you extinguish?
It could be touching when you touch the flame. Something could happen. It could extinguish it a little bit.
Well, that's your.
Yeah. So that's it. We're gonna have soon a lady, like it says in Tastes, next Tastes. We're gonna that ladies would cut off the wick and throw it on the floor, a burning wick, and then it would go off. It says not to do that. So here the same idea. When you're cutting off the black, where does it go? It goes to the floor.
Yeah.
When it's flying onto the floor, there is a little spark there. By you cutting it off, what are you doing? You're flicking a cigarette. What are you doing? You're flicking a cigarette. There's a little spark there. You're putting it out there, you shouldn't flick it.
There has to be a spark for that.
There has to be some type of spark.
By you cutting it, so the black is machshich. That's where you want to go and do. But when you're doing it, I mean, that's what it seems like. Maybe I'm wrong.
You're doing some type of.
It seems like you're flicking. Why? Because by you flicking it and putting it onto the floor, you're doing a kiv in that spark that's on that black part.
Okay.
That's
or you could be touching the wick itself. Could have it.
The closest I come to this is like Hanukkah, where I want to adjust. I want to get a brighter flame.
Yeah.
There's a little bit too much black there, and I want to clip a little bit off the wick in order to enhance it. Yeah, but there should be a shema attached to it. You know what happens most of the time?
Goes
the
out.
whole thing goes out.
Well, should be careful.
Yeah, you tell me
that's the problem. See, when you flick,
that should be the ikka problem.
You could, by mistake,
you tell me you want to fill it around. With
okay,
it.
good.
Yeah, but it's a big problem.
On Lamed Beis, so Lamed Beis, that's where the sugi about this small line, but
it's almost impossible. You shouldn't do it. Then something shouldn't happen.
Okay, let's go a little bit weiter. So Lamed Beis is where Rashi is referring to that Gemara there.
Okay.
So and also we're gonna have a taste of Hashem. When we do taste, hopefully we'll get clear a little bit, right? Not that we understand a little bit. We should, we're trying to get to there. Let's go weiter. Okay. So that's what Rashi says. Tosfos says the same idea here. You're also cutting off the black part, but not when the fire is lit. When there's no fire on. The black part has no sparks. There's another problem as I mentioned before. The problem of tikkun mana. Yeah, you're taking a mana. Yeah, you're making a new keli. That means or makar patish. Some say tikkun mana is makar patish, or the binyan if you hold binyan keli. At the bottom you're making a keli. What is it? By taking off the black part, the next time you want to light it, it's going to light brighter. So that's you're allowed to do it, right? It's going to be better if the black is not there. It's easier to catch on. So you have also Shulchan Aruch you have about this with a sack and do with your hands. Why are you allowed to do it? It's attached. Why is it tikkun? Shouldn't be able to. Why he's allowing to do it? So the kud is going to be. It's not mamish part of the psila. If it will be part of the psila, that's a bad part. You want to cut it off, will be a problem. But being the black part is extra to the psila, so then it's allowed to because there's a few spots why you're allowed to. Either it's not considered. A part of it. Second, most people take it with their hands. Is a raya. It's not really tikkun mana because the tikkun mana have to use a keli for it. That's a Shulchan Aruch. You can see now. We can open it soon in a moment. Let's go through tastes. Kanva Shari says the Pirush Rashi Mukayir, as we explained before for the Gemara later. What Rashi says, Balaz limchet reisha psila to trim the top of the psila. Not v'oise, and this Gemara says oise, but the real gear says v'nase. I don't know if you have it in your Gemara also. On the side it should say it's not this Gemara. Other Gemaras when I looked at it in the morning, it said v'nase. And what shenase it says okay, but me it says v'oise. Toisa the nase kanvo. Toisa, okay, you have it. So the lashon not you're doing it for ket. It was done before already. It was there already, right? Like Rashi says, nase. Okay, so it was already pechom. But that's what the loim needed. Taisa says, I don't think this is the pshat. Why? What we referred to before Lamed Beis, there it says, Korilei, this activity that Rashi is referring to, it gives it another name. Korilei meichtin es haneir. It says meichtin es haneir. And then the Gemara asks, what is meichtin? My meichtin? And the Gemara concludes, like we said, aduye chushcha. Aduye chush means lahasa, taking away. Chushcha means the darkness. Yeah, that's the lashon there. Over here, here he uses the lashon kanva, and there he uses the lashon meichtin. So it seems Taisa is saying it's not the same thing; it's a different activity. If not, it would be the same word. Yeah. So therefore, the lashon it doesn't say the same lashon. So therefore, there's two types of trimming. As we explained. One is when it's still lit, and you're taking off the black part in order that this fire that's already lit should have a brightness to it. And this is Hainu Ahudl Kaman. That is what's mentioned in the Aflamid base. There's another trimming. Cover after already the fire went out, and you have a candle with some black on top of it because it had a fire before. What are you doing then? You're metaking this candle. Being it should light in the future quicker, so you want to take away the black. And you take away the blackness that's on top of the wick. But you don't have a fire itself. What would be the problem over here? Tikkun mana. That doesn't say it. Let's get tikkun mana. We're going to have in the Mishnayos later about doing this. And this way it'll be easier. When you light it again, it'll be easier. And that is what we're speaking here about. So in our Gemara says Taisvis the kanva is a tikkun mana issue. You would think it's tikkun mana, but he says you're allowed to, because like we said, the black part is really not part of the candle and it's done with your hand, so it's not really considered tikkun mana or tikkun. Therefore you're allowed to. But the whole shaila was tikkun mana with a non-lit fire. But the Gemara there, Lamed Beis is about a lit fire. But Rashi says this and Lamed Beis is the same exact thing. Two pshatim in kanva.
Yeah. Non-basic today, here it's not.
Yeah.
But here it's not. It says trimming a whip.
It says kanva shari. It doesn't say kanva. It's a word. What kanva means? Rashi teaches kanva means, it both means trimming. The shayla is trimming it when it's lit in order to enhance the fire. Trimming it when it's not lit in order for the next time you're going to light it. That's the two pshatim. Is it trimming it when it's lit? Because the shayla is of kivui in order to make the fire grow better, be clear. Or it's trimming it when it's not lit in order that next time you light it, you should have a good candle, so it will be a shayla tikkun. It's allowed. That was a shayla.
Rashi said it's burning.
It's burning, yeah, the same as the Lamed Beis. It says it's the same. The lashon is different. Why would it do the same? So Taisa has the two differences. Now, Rabbi Hananel says, no, I'm going to bring it down because first it's on the amud, and secondly, it's in Geil Allah Shulchan Aruch broke down after Rabbi Shulchan Aruch also this din. It's a smaller word, so we'll take a look here. Rabbi Hananel, my Gemara, it's 3 lines from the bigger lines here. You see Rabbi Hananel, 3 lines. Yeah, the bottom. Rabbi Yehud, then it says Ukenivo, yeah, Shari, Pirush, Yesh Misha'im, those that say, Kegen Avuka, a torch, made from small pieces of wood. They're not one wood, it's a bunch of small woods. If you take on Shabbos, from those woods that the fire didn't yet catch onto it, shari, it's allowed. So Pashit, you have a bunch of small woods, even belongs to one unit, but as long as, and normally it should light for 5 hours. If I take away half of it, it lights for 2 hours. And provided that those woods I'm taking away are not lit yet, I can just take them away. And it has, like, I'll tell you an example. Even if wax, or you have chelef, shuman, you have pieces of wax or pieces of fats that would put together, and then it would melt. And then the fire would light for X amount of time. But if there's individual pieces, you're allowed to take away some of them. If you want to have the fire should be lit for less, you could take away some of those pieces of chaylev, of fats, in order that the fire should never catch on to that, so it won't go later. You learn it from this din, from the Rabbi Hananel's girsa, the Riv's girsa also, from this din, the Rashba learns out this halacha. We're going to get also today, Mr. Lemaisa, ask Rav, like we said about changing your Shabbos clock, changing your timers, how to change it. If you're allowed to change it to make sure it should go off of a little earlier or on a little bit later, depends how much close you are, what your action is, mamish touching it or not. This is going to get Lemaisa halacha also. So 3 pshatim in this word of kanva. Okay? Right. Zok the Gemara. Omar, boy minei, Abba, back to the Gemara, right? Boy minei, Abba bar Marta me Abaye. Abba bar Marta asked Abaye, Mahu l'chabis es haneir, is it permitted to put out the fire, do kivui, mipnei davar acher, because of davar acher. What is davar acher, says Rashi? Mipnei davar acher, l'shamish mitosei, tashmish amita, we know it says in Gemara Pesachim, is also l'shamesh. A person is now to be mishamish is mito la'od haner. The mother says very serious things over there. Mother says in Pesachim, if someone does it, he's going to have children that are going to be epileptic. Right? It's going to affect the child. So therefore, it's a big chumrah not to be mishamish mitos la'od haner. And Yom Tif, he wants to mishamish mitase, and there's a fire over there, and he wants to put out the fire. We're saying here kivui, putting out a fire to have a certain hano, to have a certain fire ginigin, to put out the fire. Yeah, you're allowed to do it or not. So first he tells them, Amalei tells him, why can't you go to another house? So he says, this man does not have another house. What's the din? He could make a mechitza between the fire and his bed. It says, we'll discuss in a moment, making a mechitza Yom Tov is not so pashut, you can't make a mechitza, it's binyan, we'll discuss it tomorrow. But ein loy lashes mechitza. He doesn't have material to create the mechitza. What is the din? You could cover the fire with a keli. Ein loy keli you don't have. What's the din? Amalei, unfortunately, Amalei tells him, also, it's not allowed. Not allowed. So why aren't you allowed? So Pashtus, it's brought down right away. It's very important places or Gemara in Ksubis. What Ksubis says like this. What Ksubis says about a Beil Psula. So Beil Psula is it might be in from a Chabura, yeah, right? Beil Psula. Yeah. The shaila is, could you be Beil Psula on Shabbos? That's a shaila. Yeah. So the Gemara says on Shabbos and on Yom Tif. It goes to the Arichis here. What's about Yom Tif? The Gemara just says, what's the mitoich shehutra chabura l'tzairech? You're allowed to make a chabura to shecht your animal, make a chabura. So hutra nami shalei l'tzairech. You could go ahead and do and be bail on Yom Tif. The hill holds of mitoich. The sham does not hold of mitoich, but the hill holds of mitoich, so you could do it Yom Tif. So there it's clear the din is you're allowed to. Why here should it be any different? Why should you not allowed to do malacha of kivui in order for tashmish hamita? Why is it the same thing? So there's two answers in Ksubis.
But kivui always done in the sense of improving the flame.
No, it allows you to be tashmish without it can't be tashmish.
Right, but kivui is being understood over here, diminishing the flame. That you can do tashmish. Yeah. While kivui we learned before is to enhance.
Yeah. But also every amount is told kivui. Putting off half of the fire, the
other keyboard was because you want to enhance the flame. By doing that, the flame is becoming brighter.
Right.
This is the total opposite.
I'm taking off fire to increase my hanof to have light in the house.
That's one.
I'm taking off a fire to increase my tasha shamita. I'm doing an aveda malacha in order to get hanos haguf.
You're diminishing the light in order to be able to do the tashma shamita.
Yeah.
So it's in the opposite direction.
Why tashush hamita is
the initial
tashush is the hanoah. Having a bright light is a hanoah. Yeah, those are two hanoahs. Having a bright candle is hanoah.
Yeah, but one is the beginning of that. The other one is the end result. But over here we're saying that the original keyboard was what? That you want to enhance the flame. So you're allowed to fill it around. You're allowed to fill it around with the wick.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But you're enhancing the flame. You're making the room brighter. This type of keyboard over here, you're diminishing the flame. Why? In order to be able to
make the room brighter is that's the hanoah.
The reddish one does, but it's two different types of keyboard.
But the keyboard is saying I'm still diminishing here. I'm putting out a fire. I'm both putting out a fire. I'm putting out a fire in order to have hanoah.
No.
So I'm putting out a fire to have hanoah.
No. Both make an improvement. It's not the same area that you make the improvement. No question, can you do kibui to make improvement? That's the question.
So Taisa discusses the two differences. That Taisa said, but the union of Chabura, first of all, it's mitzvah, it's a bilus mitzvah. So therefore, it's a tzeirech hayim. And here, it's not speaking about a bilus mitzvah, stam tashamita. Secondly, he goes into the protim taka. The protim like this. Here, maybe that's what you're trying to say also. When it comes over there, the chabura is a chelik of a tasha shamita. You're creating the chabura b'shas, you're doing the hanoah. It's happening at the same time. You can't have the hanoah without the chabura. Here, that was two things. It's like you have if you would not have you have to eliminate a fire in order to come back into the Shemitah. So it's two different things. Therefore, it's more chumrah dikir not to do it. Even though a person could be the taste is in ksubas, it's a very important taste of work under the shayim over here to understand our Gemara also. Okay, so that's
What's
your
more chumrah?
No, but over here it's more
That's
machmir because first of all, it's not a mitzvah.
Two separate things.
Two different things. Over there, that's kum durch. The only way to go ahead and to have the hanoah is by doing the here. No, that's impossible. You should never had a candle on before Shabbos. I mean, you had a candle. So now it's two separate things. You have the halacha. Arbe the revealing. Aryeh means a lion. There's a lashon halacha. Some things there's a lion standing over there. Yeah, it's not shad that you can't do it. I could do it. Something else. I mean, hatzrad is preventing you from doing it. That's a halachic concept. Many times, maybe you're familiar with this thing. Yeah. So to also there, if it's one inyan or two inyan. Well, come on, let's go weiter. So it says Tasha. Yeah. So his question here is allowed to? And he answered, you're not allowed to. Let's go into Rashi before we get to the question. The Isra says Rashi, to make with curtains, with sheets. The shaila is what's about how could you make a curtain in mechitza? A mechitza, it depends why you make a mechitza. So mechitza in Hilchos Shabbos, you have there Hilchos Shabbos that building an ehel, a tent is osur. What is a tent? That's what I say. A tent is dafka a gag, a roof. However, a wall, a mechitza, is not called a binyan of a tent. Yeah, it's not called building something. But then he goes and says, depends why the mechitza is made. If the mechitza is made as a halachic partition between two areas, you're creating a difference between mashal sukkah. You can have now a wall to be able to create a new rishus or Shabbos. So you're having halacha rishus, different rishus, two rishus. Then it's not allowed.
Right.
But if you're creating a mechitza for tznius, to cover something, it's allowed.
Yeah.
So l'mashal, someone is shamish mitase or he's doing tirachav, and there's a lot of svarim over here. So you're not allowed to put the svarim or say for teiras, yeah, for sure not. There's two options. You could create the halachic 10 tfachim mechitza between you and the svarim. Even though technically you could see the svarim, but who cares? The svarim are in another room, and you're in another room, you're in another reshus. You could do tirachav. Or you cover the Sefer Torah, so you can't see it, even though it's maybe technically not a full mechitza. That you're not creating a petition of two different rooms here. So it's here also we're speaking here about putting up a sadin on Yom Tiv. It would not be to create a mechitza of a 10 tvachim wall, even if it's more than 10 tvachim. If the purpose is l'chasa, you're allowed to do it. Depends on your purpose. If your purpose is just to cover for tznius, even if it's a very big mechitza, it's technically not called a mechitza to create another reshus. It's allowed to be created. That's what Rashi refers to when it says putting up a sadin on Yom Tiv. That type of mechitza is allowed to be made on Yom Tiv. On Shabbos also. That's the Mishnah Feinstein. You have always the the mechitza that you have between when you b'shas and tefillah, b'shas and davening. Here it's the Shulchan mentions you have a mechitza between nosha and noshim b'shas or drasha. The mechitza is a different thing. The drasha is a mechitza. It's pashut. You shouldn't be looking at someone else. At other, but davening also to have your own kavanah. You shouldn't be looking. It's machshav v'chulu. It's going to be from Heschadas from Tefillah. But my main time is that the mechitza is a petition, a separate reshus. So therefore, 10 tefachim mechitza between is allowed. You could see them gay when a different building, different room. So it's obviously we're more machmir than that, and therefore it has to be at least higher because it's not just the union of mechitza, a separate reshus. Actually, shouldn't be able to see. So yeah, right. So this sadin over here is not to create a mechitza, a proper mechitza, as we're saying of 10 tefachim, but rather it should be covered. You should not be able to see it. The shaila is what should do this fire. So you can have a fire, and you can say the whole akpod of psachim also. What psachim apparently is, if you're able to see, that's not a problem. The main thing is you're in a different room. If you're in a different room, it's fine. Or covering the candle itself, you don't see, it's noch better. But that's it too. Says the Gemara weiter. He asks the shaila. So Esrei. One is not allowed to put out the fire of a bakas, is a log that has fire on it, But you want to put it because you want to be able to keep this log for another time. You don't need to have the fire anymore. So you want to have the log itself. Then you're not allowed to put out the fire of the log. However, in bishvil shaloyis ashen habayis, if you're doing it not for the sake of the log to save it, but for the house should not get oshon, should not be full of smoke, oy hakdeira, or the pot. Yeah, the two taichin in the pot. Either the pot should not get burnt, as we said before, the food in the pot, or the pot itself should not break. Either way, there's a hanoah. Either the hanoah is pasha to sit in a room that you're eating in a room with a lot of smoke. It's not pleasant. So even your meal that you're eating in Yom Tif is not a pleasant meal. So it can be directly related to the food you're eating, to Eichel Nefesh Mamash. The pot also, if the food will get ruined by the smoke, for sure, my food is ruined, it's Eichel Nefesh Mamash. Even if the pot will be broken, I won't have what to cook with. It's also related to not having food on Yom Tif. Or if you have to go out of this house because you're going to go to another room, you have nowhere to live, you don't have a house, it's for sure related. Not to Eichel, you don't have where to eat. It's for sure from Eichel Nefesh. So in that case, you're allowed to put out the fire. So if you have a log in your house, and it's creating smoke all over the house, and the smoke is making it very unpleasant, and definitely is going to disturb your simchas yom tif, and even disturb your food. You don't want to eat them properly. There you could put out the log. That's what it says in the Braisa. You're doing kivui. You're doing kivui in order to have hanoah, that your house should not be smoked. So if you could do kivui to have hanoah, why could the kivui to have tashish amita?
Or to make the flame. The candle.
On the first case that you're allowed to do, there's a shadi.
Yeah, in other words, if you can do this here, you should be able to do the candle also.
The candle you could do. The candle, the candle by the tashish amita. Yeah, that's a shayla.
Not the candle touch me. The first candle.
No, that's like a shadi. It says you could. This says you could. Rav said the first din we learned today, you're allowed to cut the candle, blacken the candle. The second, the pechem you could take off. Yeah, you could take off.
You said you could.
You should, yeah. The second case was don't do kibur for tashish amita. Third case now, the log, you could do it for so the chayre, the shal and tash and the din of tashish amita. Why can't you put out the fire in order to have the davar acher? That's a shayla. So you're going to go into the answer is going to be the famous machlekes we're going to have in a few amudim about, you mentioned before, about machshira eichel nefesh or not. So amalei hahir Rabbi Yehudihi, that din that allows a person to do kivui in order to be in a pleasant room without smoke, that is Rabbi Yehuda. Ki kaminano, what am I saying that one is not allowed to put out the fire for davar acher? L'rabban according to the Rabbanon, and this machlekes don't have. Rashi will tell us the machlekes Rabbanon and Rabbi Yehuda. Says Rashi, bakas Rashi teaches in French is a log. It says kilochus aleha, kilochus aleha. If he goes ahead and he puts out the fire of the log in order because he wants the log to survive, that's not allowed. Why not? There's no tzedek yom tif at all. You want to hold on to the log. That's not a kibbutz. Now Rashi explains weiter. I heard the Havel is soiser almanas livnois bim koimai. In Hilchis Beina, in Balach of Beina, this Beina soiser almanas livnois shaloi bim koimai, and the soiser almanas livnois bim koimai. The real malach of the Torah that's awesome, that Torah Shabbos to do Beina is soiser almanas livnois bim koimai. And that's in place, right? So here, so Rashi says that it's similar to Seiser Amanas Livnois Bim Koimai. What's pshat? We know you have, for example, oil and you have a wick. We'll discuss it in Tesis also soon. Taking and the wick has fire. Taking out the wick of the oil for what? What purpose? To preserve the oil or to preserve the wick? That the wick should not burn out, so you should have a wick for next time. Or that you should have the oil because I'm going to bed and I don't need to have the candle and it's lit. There's a lot of oil left. Why should I waste the oil? Or why should I waste the wick? Depends why you're doing it. If you were to extinguish and take out the wick in order to preserve the wick, that is similar to soiser almanas livnois bim koimai. You're doing the malacha of soiser, taking out the fire in order to preserve the wick itself. That's even worse. But taking out the wick in order to preserve the oil, that would be termed more soiser almanas livna shalayim koyim. Because I'm doing the malacha of the wick, but I don't really need the wick.
But the log is neither.
Oh, so the log itself, when you by putting the fire for the log itself, that's mamish the worst, because you're doing soiser, you're doing kibui almanas in order to preserve the thing itself, the log itself. That's not allowed. But just giving you what would be a case in fire in havara, and this the terminology of soiser is a term in melech is boina. But if you and Ashi applies it to here havara and kivui, what would be a similarity of the term soiser almanas livna shaloyim koim when it comes to melech havara and kivui would be the example of putting out a fire or taking out your wick in order to preserve the oil, which is we have a klab when it comes to malacha. The real malacha is making a hole in the ground. Chof is for the dirt or for the hole. It's important to know what you need it for. The more you need it for the thing itself, that's the malacha. The malacha, if you're taking out a fire in order to preserve the log or to preserve the wick with the fire is on, that's mamish the malacha of kivui. It's sois almost leaving koimai. Mashenkin, if one were to take off to put out a fire in order to preserve the oil, that would be similar to soiser almost leaving koimai. That's just the Rashi. What Rashi telling us, because he's using here a term of Alef Beia, and I was speaking about kivui and avara, but that's also I saw an Achrim discussing this in Rashi. This is how to explain Rashi. Okay, weiter. That's a part of the Beditza, which one is not allowed to do. You're not allowed to put out the fire of the log to preserve the log itself. However, to put the fire of the log in order to have it shouldn't be smoky in your house, that you're allowed to do. Weiter. And then the question was mutter. Why is it with alma? So what's the shaila on our din? That means you're allowed to do kivui. You know, today, not living sitting in a house of smoke. So why can't one do kivui to be able to have tashu shamito? Yeah, Rashi. Rabbi Yehuda. Rashi says Rabbi Yehuda. So the answer is there's a Rabbanon and Rabbi Yehuda machlekes later on. Let's see the machlekes. The Amalek Hamon later on. Rabbi Yehuda says machshirei oichel nefesh shoru. He says you're allowed to do a malacha of machshirei oichel nefesh, to make a pot, to actually make a pot, to make a spud, a spit, to create it. Yeah, So that's called machshirei oichel nefesh. He says you're allowed to. It says l'chol tzrachechem, to all your needs. The dorish yas lachem l'chol tzrachechem. It says lachem to everything you need. V'hainami tzrachechem. This is also the machshirei tzrachechem. V'chein tashmish. Also tashmish is a tzorich. A person needs it. No, the I said it's asar, and I said it's also kirabana. The darshi hu levadi. Rabbanan later say no. Machshirei oichel nefesh. You're not allowed to do the malacha of machshir nefesh in order for eichel nefesh. Only eichel nefesh itself, only malachas are touching or involved with the food itself.
So the end result over here is that you have a pot that needs tefillah, so you can't toivel it on yontif in order for you to cook.
Right.
Because it's 2 steps away from.
Yeah. According to Gemara, we'll get to the sugya later, but that's going to be the same at kuda. It can't be machshir. Now, there's two very good. There's 2 inyanim here first of all, because we're speaking here the terms of there's the achila. And there's the hanoah. Discussed last mission that Rabbi Shammai say that you can't cook up of water to be able to warm up to have to clean your feet. Now is that oichel nefesh or not oichel nefesh? So good. So that's going to be so. Bishil says clearly that's called oichel nefesh. See, how does Bishil matter to cook up warm water besides
cook enough that you could have to be clean, drinkable water?
No, that's Bisham. Yeah, but Bishil that says no, you could go ahead and cook up even for the purpose of cleaning your feet. Yeah. So where does it come from? How could you do that? It could be two options. Either we learn to begin the Masechta mitoich, the famous Mishnah mitoich shehutra mitzayrich, hutra mishlotzay, based on that rule. Shami doesn't hold the mitoich. Bishil says that you're allowed to cook for food. You're allowed to carry a case of shul to your home to open up your house, or you sit at the shul because you haven't said you need to have the sit to daven the shul. It doesn't do with achila. It has to do with hano. You want to have a tzedek of yomtiv to daven, and therefore that's the rule of mitoich. Either that's the reason, that the source of why Bishil says you have to cook up water on yomtiv, or it's because the definition of cleaning your feet is also included in lachem l'chol tzrachechem. The different kudi here. So there's two nekudas here. The second will be problematic because later on will be a machlekes tanoim, Rabban and Rabbi Yehuda about Pishila. Everyone holds like Pishila. So that will be an issue. We'll get to that sugya later on. But the nekuda here is, well, we're allowed to do all the melachas on Yom Tiv. That's not mamish, they're related to food itself. And we're speaking here about Tashamita and not having comfortable. That mamish food itself, it's all secondary things. But nevertheless, a culture of Chechem, you're allowed to do it. Then there's the machshire. Machshire is already something else because it's a step further. The machshir of, not the oichel itself, but the machshir of the hanos haguf. So that goes a little bit further. We had in the last sugya, I don't know if you remember, we had the sugya about shovel chol nefesh. Washing the whole body is not shovel akoil. Yeah, not tzorich lakoil. Because not everyone washes the whole body. Washing your hands and feet and face is, and the whole body not. Even according to Bezilo, you should wash your whole body, right? Well, we had it just for. So that's another nekudah there. That even when you're allowed to do something for hanoah, but only if it's similar to the achila. The achila, when you eat, the whole body gains energy. So too, putting up a heater on Shabbos, putting up, making the whole body gets warm. But washing is only for a few people who wash the whole body. Most people don't do it. So it also comes to Tashmish. The Gemara in Ksuba says also, what is the, so Moshe says about making perforating your clothing. It's the lashon that's in English, to make it perfume, to make his clothing smell new.
Deodorizing your clothing.
Deodorant, what is it called? Yeah. So perfuming it. How do you say to make it smell? Anyways, so you put some on gacheles, on coals. You put your clothing on top of it, and let the nice.
The old ancient way.
Yeah, I understand. So that the Gemara says, "I allowed to do it. I allowed to go and light a fire. It's soirech. You like to have your clothing to smell nice. So I do it. The Gemara says you can't, because that is only very people that are funokim, they like to have the clothes smell. Most people don't need that. That's similar. But tashmish, everyone needs tashmish. And washing the whole body, not everyone is only funokim. Washing hands and feet and face, everyone. So there's a question of which things are for everyone. Then I'm going to ask a question: what's about if a deer happened to be trapped in your house? Could you shecht on a yom tiv? Who eats deer meat? Only special people. The says that's different. Every person needs to eat. Who gives me some choice food or not? Doesn't mean we should not have to shecht an animal like a deer because it's only rich people or whatever catch deers. The achila itself that's a Gemara Ksubis. So that's another nekuda here. So the nekuda is going to be everyone has to be shovel akoil. It has to be a malacha that's shovel akoil, number one, and that we described before in shovel akoil. Then there has to be a hanoah that's mamish. That you're getting a hanoah from the malach itself. It's a hanoah saguf. And tzorich tzast, you didn't have some kind of need for a yom tov. That's something you don't need it at all. And then the shaila is the malacha being done also. Is it directly related to the malach, to the tainuk, to the oinik itself, or it's a little bit removed, being mainay, taking away another? It's a lot of rishonim in this union, but we're going to go back to now.
The main two things are shavul chol nefesh, and it's directly or indirectly on the object.
Okay, yeah, but
that's right.
Yeah, but even the last mission, you have two ways of learning it. Is it because there's a lot of because the mitoich is it's a very complicated issue. But no, it's not complicated. There's a lot of inyanim here. We go through the rishonim, but it's a whole different. But the Alter puts it together in he brings down the taste and ksubas here, brings down Shulchan Aruch and Kutas Achrein, and it's a very very geshmaka. He puts the inyanim together.
To
machshire,
to direct to using the whole thing partial, etc. Is that mitoch? If you do something mitoch partial, if you do something else.
Also, yeah, it's also
mitoch
everything else here. Marshall says about do you use the mitoch and also machshire? Mentioned for the two steps away. There's mitoch and machshire. For example, what's mitoch? Mitoch means being allowed to do some mitoch nefesh. Even Lanzerich Nefesh. Let me see. Yeah. Listen to this. It tastes over there. I have to check. It tastes like this. He says, "Listen to Zazach. This interesting thing." It's like this. So he makes a cheshbon. Boine, building. Yeah, building. Could you build tzarich oichel? Is building a malacha you need? No, it's building a malacha you need for oichel mashul to find it. So he found it. What did he find?
Build the oven.
He found no. Directly for eichel, like squeezing the eichel. All the things that cooking. There's oirig and there's not nothing with eichel. What's connected to eichel itself? So you have making cheese. So making cheese is boines, binyan.
Yeah.
You're taking water
Putting it
from
in
milk.
it.
So that's mamish eichel. So you have something directed to the eichel. Then you're from binyan. So if you can't do it on Shabbos, you're boiner. You're building cheese. So you
Have
have
the best. You have the cheese that if you squeeze some lemon.
No, we're talking. So that's also that's baina.
That's
Putting in the lemon is baina.
it becomes a
So
hard
like,
piece of cheese.
pachi.
Not pacha, ricotta cheese.
Ricotta, yeah, ricotta.
Okay. But it's fine. So now that you found the malacha, eichel nefesh of boiner. Now listen to this. So mitoich shehuter l'tzeirich, huter am shletzerich. What's shletzerich? So if your house falls, you can build your house on Yom Tov. Why? Mitoich shehuter the taste is that mitoich shehuter l'tzeirich, and I found you tzerich eichel of binyan of gewinna. So to tell shalom, because so I'll discuss this also. How far do you go? How far do you go? Do you also see the machshirei eichel? Because making machshirei eichel together with the mitoich. And then in that case, you come to this maskana that not everything, because certain malachas are not shaykh to the eichel itself. Like which malachas are shaykh to eichel? Shechita is, I mean, what other ones shaykh to eichel to mamish to the preparing of food.
So why is shechita mutar then? Because it's not directly involved with the food you're eating.
Shechita mamish eichel itself. You need to eat.
No,
Why
but you have to cook it, skin it.
What?
You have to cook it,
Yeah,
and
but you
skin it.
gotta first kill it.
You have to cook it and skin it. So
No,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
simple step. So
So all that is part of mamish
I
tachila.
know.
That's all the steps.
I know. Understand.
So you have the where is it? And it's an interesting kuntas achrin. Alter brings down this. Let's go. Let's try to finish off something. Let's see. And so the next few shilas will be very similar shaila, and then the similar answer, right? But basically, the shaila is that we have here a din of he said it's usher to put out the fire from shamash tose, and now we're being over here from a braisa from the beak or from the log. That's mutter. Another din in the shaila also on this. Let's go right. Dr. Gemara. We're holding over here. Boy minay. The end of the line, boy minay. See, the last word line is minay. Boy minay abayi mirab. Abayi asked a question. Mahu lechabis adlika b'yomtiv. Okay, put out a fire on Yom Tiv. I says, we did that? We didn't? Yeah. We did the shaila about the din of Tasha Shamid. That's the din of Shudavarache. The first shaila was, could I put out a fire b'shvil davarache? That was the first shaila, right? That was the first din.
Yes.
Then we had a question from the Eisvei. Now we have a second din. Am I allowed to put out a fire? Fire in there.
So,
The last word is minay. So boy minay. The last word line is minay. The first line is Yehuda. The first word line is Yehuda. Boy minay. Abaye mirabe. Mahul chabes is adloka b'yomtiv. What's the din? Am I allowed to put out a fire on Yom Tov? He says, "Hey, chadikas sakonas apashis." If the case is sakonas apashis, person's life is in danger. Obviously, lekasha. There's no question. There's like kami boil. I'm not going to ask you this question. I feel b'Shabbos shor. Shabbos you could also put out. Ki kami boili. What's my question? Mishum ibud mamayin. The loss of money. That's not Mefarshim say. Not just on the loss of money that my warehouse is going to burn down on Yom Tov. Of course, you're not allowed to. But the shaila is loss of money in your own house. You're not going to have food. You're not going to have where to live today, and it's going to affect your simchas Yom Tov and your eichel nefesh. That means ibud mammon here. So my Amalei, he says osur. It's osur. You can't put out a fire for just ibud mammon if you don't say construction valve. Then the same question. The shaila was there. We see you could put out the fire on the log in order the house should not get full of smoke. For sure, I could put out a fire if my whole house will burn down, actually. So why shouldn't I be able to? But the same answer here. Rabbi Yehuda, he come in at the Rabbanan. Rabbi Yehuda Taka says one that holds is more lenient, that he expands the definition of Eichel Nefesh to Machshir Eichel Nefesh. He would allow it, but the Rabbanan say no. I mean, another question: to paint your eye, put a medicine into your eye. B'yomtiv. If there's a sakana, we know for sure the eye is very sensitive. It's brought down in the Shainim that the eye is takashaychis to the heart itself, and therefore the eyes is. But depending on the kind of you have there, and it gives you a few examples. We'll explain in a moment. Could go in your rira. It's dripping. Ditza is what is it? Sharp. It's pricking. Dama is redness. Dimasa is tearing a lot. The katchosa is a very sharp. It actually says here katchosa loshen It burns, a burning sensation in your eye. So these are is what? The beginning of all this. That's a case of sakana. So for sure you could put on medicine in your eye if never you have those in your eye. Feel you could kick it. Barely soif uchla. The end, that means you're already healed. But the end of the healing, you want to be able to have a brighter, a clearer vision. And like Rav also explained, it can help us when you eat, you'll be able to see better. So it's also shaykh nefesh. And without to have to eat more pleasant, you have a clearer vision. Is that allowed? So the same thing. Also, you're not allowed. The same idea. You can do a malach of medicine in order to enhance your hanoah. He told him because they say and he answered the same time he answered before. So we have three halachas. One about putting on a fire b'tashemita. One about putting out a one about putting. What was the second shaila about adleika, the fire in a person's house? Could he put it out in order to save mamain? The third shaila was, could he put in his eye this inyan? Let's look at Rashi. Rashi says, Eisvei. Yeah, this shaila Eisvei veiloch. So if we say just having smoke in your house, the Braisa says you're allowed to put out the log. Definitely, if there's a fire in your house, you're not going to have a house b'chlal. For sure, you should be able to take Yom Tevi. So Chabes to put out. You should have to sit outside in the heat or in the rain. And he said, put some kind of paint or refuah in your eyes. It drips. Gives the name in French. Excuse me. Okay. Beditza sheneikev. It pierces through like a machat, you feel like a machat, like a needle. Dima gives the French word. Dim also the mass tummy, the tears all the time. Kadacha ba'api soirefes, it burns. Vushakayin gives you the French word. Tichel uchel tchilas hachoyli shel kol eilu, all of them. Like we say, it says shuraynu deino. Yeah. Ufsina the liba toli. The eye itself, the eye itself is connected to the heart. So it's really a person has an issue with his eyes. Some of them are very very crucial to his health. If it's hard to
send you to the cardiologist for it.
Yeah, also, yeah.
By the way, if there's someone has a clogged arteries and that's why they have issues in the eye, there's could be problems.
It's a simin of something else.
Yeah.
Not it's a cause. It's a result of a heart issue. Not that the eye will make
a microcosm of what's going on in your body, in your heart.
It's a safe uchla upetzuchi eino shekorav lisrapis. We're speaking about type that you're almost healed. The eino keichel, you only put in the medicine inside eino elo lahagia me'erit to get more light, right? So it says eisve bekas sim shemuter, like we see from this braise shemuter lanos haguf shleis ashim. Let's look at the Taisvis. Taisvis says this braise that we said that if someone has a log and it's letting out a lot of smoke, so one is allowed to put it out. It's going to ruin your Yom Tiv. We can, but we pass in that. We say you shouldn't because you pass like the Chachamim.
We have a similar instance with a cigarette or a cigar. So what's the din? You're not allowed to put out the cigarette. You have to put it and let it burn out by itself. Right,
because every time you flip it, you're letting. But even to put it out itself, you shouldn't be doing it right.
No, you have to place it down. You can't do anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't smoke, but with a cigar though, you put it down, it'll go out, and then if you want to, you can go back and relight it again.
So this inyan of putting down a cigarette, and it might go out by itself by putting it down sometimes, or even throwing it down. So this thing you have right in tastes here itself. Tastes right.
People are not to throw it down; they'll place it down.
I'll place it. Why because throwing it might directly cause the fire to go out. So and the halach is we pass we don't pass. We'll see soon. We don't pass a chacham. We pass a shek Yehuda. But in moedin kel poil the halach l'maisa is that we're going to be moedin kel chacham, that we machmir, right? So it says mikan yesh limches from here. We should be moichel. We should protest as hanoshim. Some women, they take away the wick, we take Hashem from the oil, when it's still lit, they put it on the floor. similar to the cigarette. Yeah, why shouldn't you do it? Because we just said now, even though the same problem, there was a wick that was letting out smoke, and they don't need it; they're going away. So all they do, take out the wick and put it on the floor. We shouldn't do it because we paskin like the Chachamim Alupayil that one is now to do kivu in order to enhance this experience, and therefore don't do this. The second thing, okay, don't cover the candle because you're covering it. If you're choking it, it's going to automatically go out. It's more of a direct kibui. This part of Tesis, other Rishonim say, really doesn't really belong in this Tesis, but it's also an interesting part. What the people have the meaning that they light the Yom Tov candles for the second day. They light it. We actually in our luchas it says to wait until the proper zman. The second, then you light the candles for the Yom Tov licht for the next day. But it takes the Nagu people were noyig to light the Yom Tov lechaveiroi on Yom Tov itself. Yom Tov Rishon, you would light a candle for Yom Tov Sheni. The ein medaktekin, and they're not medaktek. Look outside to see in hulaylo if it's mamish night yet. So they're lighting the candles of Yom Tov Sheni when it's Yom Tov Rishon. And before the Masechta, I was mefarish to have a hachone. You'll be making it from one day to another day. You shouldn't be doing that. So it's a problem. Ben Yom Tov meichin lechaveri. One day Yom Tov cannot be meichin to the other. You can't do anything from one day for the next day. Shloimar, so it's not a problem. The afal gav she'einu lailo, even though could be it's not light yet and not night yet. So they would have become a kem husamach lechashecha. It's close to being dark. And therefore, being that it's dark, it's getting so dark, so you also need to have the candle for light for today. So like we have about Orchim coming, right? If it's the end of the day, we discussed last time. At the end of the day, if you're going to cook food, mamish towards the end, it's not possible for the food to be served for Orchim. You're not allowed to cook because you don't have that element of hoyel being. Orchim will come, you give it to them. But here, l'chayda, you have oil. I'm using it for today itself because that little fire. And then Mefarshim explained, what do we do every time we make an Erev Tashilum out of Shabbos? When do we light Shabbos licht? For sure, we light on Yom Tov. How does it help? You mentioned last time. You're correct that even with an Erev Tashilum, it says in Shulchan Aruch, one should not cook mamish very close to chashecha. Why? Because still we're saying that then becomes the rice. The rice you're not allowed to cook and you're mechad. You're not to cook another day. None of us, even with the rice, you're allowed to cook by day. Why? Because of oil. So you don't need to show only for cooking by day. The moment you're cooking close to night, then it's already a Torah-dik issue. The Chachamim's Erev Tavshil can't take off and cancel a Torah-dik issue. So therefore, if you're cooking mamish before night, then the Torah says you're not allowed to cook now. So the answer can't help you. Therefore, you must cook, giving you enough time that it can be ready before the serve to Archim. But by fire, it's not relevant because fire, what's by fire? Even if you light the candle early on by day when it's still not day, and Shraga Betir and Maya Hani, what does a candle help in front of daylight? But why am I lighting it then by day? That when it comes closer to night, when it's still today's day, closer to night, I'll be able to have a noah from it. That's what we do every single Erev Shabbos when it's Yom Tif. Even with the Erev Tavshil, you shouldn't be allowed to do it. Somebody can't cook, so I could light a candle at that moment right before the night. None of us candle is different because you're having a mamish now from it.
So they weren't limited to 2 candles. They could light candles all over the house.
Yeah, it's a yeah. But the candle is. Let's take the second day of Yom Tif. Or let's take Stam Yom Tif. Is it better to wait, or better? Let's say out of Yom Tov Mamish, it's Chol, yeah? Some people, Yom Tov, they wait till the husband comes from shul, and then they light candles then on Yom Tov, yeah? You have any licht. What do people do? I mean, people might do it before or not. I mean,
Wow.
So my mother always lit when my father came from shul, that's Yom Tov. Chol, regular out of Yom Tov. Or you should, Mamish, you lit his man. So some people say it's better to light earlier. It's not, then I saw for certain there's a svara if I care. There's not muktzah for mitzvah, not muktzah for Yom Tov. If a candle was hooked to the mitzvah, like sukkah is chacham, there's for muktzah for the mitzvah, not for the isur of malacha, then you can't use it. So if you have a big candle with a lot of oil, and the shas ben hashmoshes, you already lit it, so you lit it out of Yom Tif, let's say you did it before his man, or so ben hashmoshes was a candle, you can't use it stam l'choil. You can't use that oil if you want to use oil for choil. But if you lit the candles after this man, when you came home from shul, you lit the candles then, using, of course, a lit fire, a pre-existing fire, then you don't have the element that the oil there was hooked to the it wasn't ben hashmoshes, wasn't the ben hashmoshes. And therefore, after this man goes, the candle lights whatever you want, you technically, I mean, we don't do that today, but you could use the oil for your own needs. So there's enough communal halacha. If you're going to light the Yom Tov candles before the Zman, so by Shas ben Hashmoshes or Huktzil Mitzvasa, you could not use the candle, the oil for something else. However, if you lit it after the Zman, so according to this, there will be an advantage of the Milo doing it after the Zman. When people want to do it before to bring for the whole Zman of the candles there. Okay, there's one last taste, and then we'll stop here. Yeah, Yehuda. Taste gives a general thing. The Islay, the Cholter Chechem, and Vanan, and we have Dinon Kerabonon. We found that Rabban. In fact, the Gemara actually, even the Rabban are Rabbi, and Yehuda is a Yachid, we'll see later, the Halach is like Rabbi Yehuda, the Umekel. That's the Din. The Chayrim Teimar, for Hanan, Haskinul Kaman, Halach like Rabbi Yehuda, Halach like Rabbi Yehuda. So you're telling me these three Dinim we learned, putting out the candle for this and that and the other, right? And that is Rabbi Yehuda. That's a Machmed Rabban. And the B'rai says Rabbi Yehuda, why is it not made a Machmed? The Halach is like Rabbi Yehuda, we should make it. So the Shleima, the Masikol Leho, later on, the Gemara discusses Machlekes, the Maskana is Ein Moedin Kain. There is a concept of Halacha, the Ein Moedin Kain. I'm sure you heard this, right? So you have Alol Halacha, and therefore, Takel Apoyel, Alpidin, it is according to Rabbi Yehuda, but Lepei, we're not Moedin. Someone asks a question, you don't say the din is like Rabbi Yehuda. Inami, Shleima, the Hodesh Sharina Midrashe, the Lachem, this that Rabbi Yehuda allows, would not allow in these three cases. Why not? Now it's going to be an interesting difference here, like we discussed it before also. When does Rabbi Yehuda say machshirei oichel nefesh is allowed? When you're involved in dealing with the oichel nefesh yourself, not the hanos haguf. When you're already involved in a step further of applying it to hanos haguf, and you want to also do machshirei, did Rabbi Yehuda make it to Rabbanan? See what I'm saying here? When does Rabbi Yehuda say that machshirei oichel is allowed to be done? When you are now involved in achila itself, in food itself. I'm involved in cooking food, and I need to have a pot, and I need to have a spud, a spit, so I could make a spit in order to cook food. But when I'm involved now in another malacha for not oichel nefesh itself, for example, enjoying yourself, other hanos, putting a fire to become warm, allowing a candle to get light, which is also hanoah, which you're allowed to, and you want to do malacha of machshirei of that, not in itself, that's not allowed. It's not further.
Only for
so the second answer to is a very big chiddush. That even Rabbi Yehuda, who's mekel, is only mekel when you're doing the eichel, because normally you could think that Rabbi the Pasuk touched the pasuk. He touched eichel cholzer chechem. By him, the definition of eichel nefesh means all hanos. According to the second answer, says no. It does not mean all hanos. It's a drash. It's a limud. You should know. We learn out the two ways to say the psukim sometimes is mamish the touch of the word, or it's a limud. So according to the second answer, it's not a touch of the word. It touches it means it doesn't mean eichel. It means any hanoah. In that case, there will be no difference eichel or any other hanoah. It's a derasha Rabbi Yehuda makes. That's a derasha that he expands the definition of that the Isur of the heter of achila also to all other hanoahs. And therefore, when it comes to applying also the machshirei, that he won't apply it to the other hanoahs. He only applies the heter of machshirei eichel nefesh. You can do malacha. If it's eichel itself, not involved, let's read the text inside. Inami, another answer. Inami Yishleima. The hodish sharinon midrashe de lachem. This that he allows because the drasha of lachem to do a malacha of machshirei. Hainu dafke bedavar shu eichel nefesh. If you're doing the eichel nefesh itself, you're involved now in food, futsal, then you're allowed to do even the machshirei to create it on Yom Tov. The chenshel tis'ashin akdeira is also. And the other pleasures, tashmish or tis'ashin akdeira, the data is going to break, or things that are not directly related to the food itself or the house, where you're allowed to do the malacha that's related to it itself, but not the machshirei of that. That's going to be the end of it. The next sugya will go into a that's almost our next sugya. We'll show next Monday. Okay.
Are you in the day you teach? In the day you teach?